more people want to grow food to be more self-sustainable, to be able to feed and look after their families. And yet we make it so complicated. And I think a lot of the problem stems from the fact that we see ourselves as the boss, that we see ourselves as having to make all of the decisions. What we need to do is stop being the boss and see ourselves more as a supervisor, because we want to grow food, but who actually does the work in the soil? It's the soil organisms. You know, they've been here for millions of years. They've got all the expertise, they've got all the on-the-job training. So if we take it as we're supervising at them, and they're doing that, and we're like a good team leader, we're giving them enough resources, we're giving them the good works, healthy workspace to work in, so they can get on the job that they've got all the experience to do. And when we do it from this ecological perspective, it actually comes down to there's 4 things that we need to do to build healthy soil. So the first thing is to take a soil test.
So what sort of soil test? You mean a pH test?
No, more than that. But don't think, oh my God, she's already being complicated. Because what happens is you'll take some samples of your soil, and then you'll send them away, and then they'll analyse the soil, and they'll come back with recommendations.
Oh, that makes it a bit easier. You get some recommendations. So
you don't need to know all of the cation exchange capacities and calcium magnesium ratios. You don't need to know all of the science. Thanks, Penny. You don't need to know all of the science about soil. They know about it. And the reason why we're doing that, I mean, pH is great, but what we're really interested in is what might be hindering your plants from growing well.
Okay, so the nutrients.
Yes, the nutrients. Because, as I'll explain in a moment, it's the amount of growth that we have to feed our soil organisms, amount of plant growth that we have to feed our soil organisms, that is what's so crucial.
Ah, I'm beginning to see.
Most gardeners don't think about getting a professional soil test because and people will say, oh yeah, but it's expensive. And you know, it can be about 200 Australian dollars. So I think I don't know what that is with the current exchange rate in the States, but it's probably about 100 American dollars. But if you think about, without that soil test, without knowing what's limited in your soil, very often we're guesstimating in effect. So we're asking the neighbours, we're doing what people tell us to do in the garden centre, and so we can actually end up spending a lot more money on things that we don't need, whereas this will tell us exactly what we need. And the reason we're doing it is to basically kick-start the growth of our plants, because that's what we need to do.
Sufficiency.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So a practical example is your soil test may say that your soil is deficient in calcium, which is quite common, but they'll look at what else your soil is deficient in. And they'll sort of say, hey, you'll be better off, for example, using gypsum than just lime, or using gypsum than dolomite. So you know exactly what to use, and they'll tell you how much to put on, and then it's just a matter of buying the stuff and spreading it. So the second thing that we need to do to build healthy soil is to put mulch on our soil. And mulch or compost, any organic material, because we can almost guarantee, and it will come out probably in your soil test as well, it will say low organic matter or low carbon, and we can almost guarantee that virtually all of our soils are low in organic matter. One of the things I do when I have people come and do courses and workshops here at Hilltop Farm is I show them an example of how the soil used to be, and then show them what it's like now in this area of the orchard, where I've got orchard trees interplanted with bananas, I've got living mulch as a ground cover, and I've got open canopied legume trees growing up above. And usually the response is, oh, so you put lots of fertilizer on and lots of mulch, and that's why it's better. And I say, yes, that is what I did originally. I got a soil test done, There were several things that I needed to do, and one of the main things was about getting the calcium-magnesium ratio better. But the soil test just told me to add more gypsum to the soil. And also I got a neighbour to come in, and we cut a whole lot of round bales of mulch, and I spread those for a couple of years. But after that, for the last probably 12 years, I haven't added anything to this system. So what has made the difference is that it's the amount of plant biomass that I'm growing. So this is the third and the crucial thing we need to do to basically grow more plants, more plant biomass, because that is the main thing that our soil organisms need to eat. There are soil organisms that run the soil ecosystems need. And why is living plants better than mulch and compost? Because if you think, when we grow living plants, they put roots into the soil, so we have organic material from roots. They also put out root exudates. And the other thing that happens is that we now know is that if we want to build more organic matter in our soil, we actually need to have most of that organic material. If it's going to be retained for longer in the soil, it's root derived. And I explain more about that in this video, and there's a link in the description below. So it's more plant biomass, but also a diversity of different plants. Because the science tells us that when we grow a diversity of different plants rather than just a monoculture, the quicker our soil improves. And also, if you think about it from a climate change, all the extreme weather that we're getting, the droughts, the flooding rains, and the impact that has on our soils. Or when we have a diverse soil community with lots of connections, lots of different ways of those nutrients being recycled, lots of different ways that the predators and the parasites and all the problem insects in our soil are being sort of balanced out and controlled, we have a soil that's better able to withstand and also recover from those extreme weather events. And lastly, we need to grow plants as much as the year as possible, noting that some of us live in seasonally dry climates or cold climates. And so lastly, what we need to do is to manage those plants so that we increase the supply of leaves and shoots to our soil organisms. And we do that using techniques like permaculture, chop and drop, pruning, managing our grazing animals better. And what we're doing there is we're mimicking what happens naturally in nature, with the possums, the monkeys, the insects all eating the leaves and defoliating the trees, and to all the grazing and browsing animals managing the ground vegetation. So let's start acknowledging and using the expertise that our soil organisms have. Let's start working with them by giving them basically better food resources. If we give them better food resources, they'll actually build the infrastructure. They'll improve the soil infrastructure. So they'll make a great working space for themselves in terms of they'll improve the drainage in the soil, they'll allow more moisture into the soil, storage of moisture, so more air to get in the soil, all of those things that make it more of a habitable environment for them. So now you can see, whether we're beginner gardeners or experienced growers, there is a whole lot of expertise out there in nature that we can learn from and work with. And so we don't need to have a degree in soil science. We don't need to know all of the intricate chemistry of our soil. We just need to get a soil test done so we can address the nutrients that may be lacking in our soil. We need to add more organic matter. Those two things will help us kickstart improving our soil. And then we need to grow a whole lot of different plants, diverse of different plants. And if you watch this video here, and I've got a description also in the below the video, that goes into more detail about how to grow more plants in vegetable gardens.